the growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, welcome to my hidden bunker here in lovely Hawthorne, Florida. We're going to start with a story from the LA Times, and it's an opinion piece by a gentleman named Doyle McManus, who is one of the editors, one of the columnists in the LA Times. I don't know much about him other than that, but he had an interesting piece about Joe Biden's campaign. So let's get right to it. The title is Joe Biden's Campaign Pitch, Make America Normal Again. Make America Normal Again. So I guess that's in some type of reference to, in conjunction with Make America Great Again. I don't know. Normal is like a cycle on the washing machine. That's the only normal I really know. But when Joe Biden entered the Democratic presidential race last month, pundits questioned whether a gaffe-prone 76-year-old symbol of last century's politics could survive in a next generation campaign, and the author admits that he was skeptical as well. But he goes on to say, so far, the old guy, I would add the old white guy, is proving us wrong. So far, he says. Well, so far, I guess maybe he's right. But didn't Biden, I mean, he's not totally gaffe-free so far. Didn't he actually say that he spoke to the dead? I mean, he did actually reference speaking to Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of the UK, and she was concerned about Trump as well, even though she's been dead for quite some time now. I wish it weren't so. I mean, the UK desperately needs a Margaret Thatcher. I tip my hat to Nigel Farage. It seems like he's rising up again in leadership there, and maybe we'll cover that later this week because there's some big votes happening in the UK and over in Europe and all that has to do with Brexit. And those of you who have watched my show religiously, and I appreciate, you know that I have a special affinity or affection for our brothers in Brexit overseas. But we'll talk more about that as the story unfolds. But Biden said that he spoke with Margaret Thatcher, and she, I guess she whispered to him that she was concerned about Trump too. I wonder if he did it in a seance or something. I mean, they believe in the witches putting a hoax on him, so they surely could have a seance. I mean, they do some of the devil's work, there's no doubt about it. But back to the article. Biden has surged to the top of the Democratic field with a well-designed message and an uncharacteristically disciplined campaign. Now, he really hadn't done much, so we don't know how disciplined he is. He's not keeping a very hectic campaign schedule, not like the other contenders, the other jackasses on the jackasses, as I call them. But admittedly, we're a month from the first debate and 8 months from the first balloting. So 2020 is literally upon us, especially on the Democratic side. But polls show him winning the support of about 38% of Democratic voters nationwide, and in early primary states well ahead of his nearest rival, Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Can you see any, let me just ask you, I was thinking about this. I was listening to a show this morning when I was taking my granddaughter to school. She's got one more week of school left, and that's one of the reasons why my show's been a bit sporadic in timing is I have to drive about 2 hours there and back, an hour each way to get her to school, but it is well worth it. She goes to a Christian school called The Rock in Gainesville, Florida, and man, is it really a rock. It's rock solid. But I was listening to a show on my satellite. I give them credit. I listen to Breitbart quite a bit in the mornings, and a thought occurred to me as I was listening to callers and all. Can you see any of these 2020 contenders in the Democratic field on the world stage actually being president? Now, I'm not saying they won't win. They could win. We don't want to take anything for granted. President Trump has a rough road to hoe. I mean, he does. The Democrats are going to run hard and they're going to run strong. I believe if the election were today, Donald Trump would win. But it's not today, and it's no guarantee. So we got to keep working on a side note. But can you see any of these people, God help us if they win, actually being on the world stage? I mean, Biden, for instance, he's in the pocket of China. Now, you might say, well, he was vice president. He's led delegations. Yeah, but one delegation he led to China, he took his son with him, who just happened to cut $1 billion deal while he's there. Like I said yesterday, here's a parting gift for your son, $1 billion deal, even though nobody knew who Hunter Biden was before then. But no, let's don't investigate Biden's kids. Only Trump's kids deserve investigation. And Bernie, man, he's like the star. I mean, he's no James Bond, but he could do a movie with Russia from Russia with love, could he not? I mean, there's even more footage come out about him partying in Moscow during his honeymoon. So if you're out there, if you're a snowflake and you think that Trump, although it's a total fantasy and he's been totally exonerated, is in the pocket of Putin, wait till they get a fellow comrade in Bernie Sanders. I mean, good Lord. So can you see any of this 2020 feel actually leading on the world stage? Maybe they'll do like Obama and lead from behind. Probably way behind. The former vice president's kickoff speech in Philadelphia last week showed why. In other words, why he is leading in these polls. It was vintage Biden. Folksy, garrulous, and at once conciliatory and combative. Did you see his wife actually take his hands and like push him away from him? I don't know what that meant, but it was, watch the video. It's out there. It's kind of went viral. And focused almost entirely on defeating President Trump. Now, he had less than 6,000 people in attendance. So it was by far no Trump rally, was it? No Trump rally. But here's what Biden, one of the little clips he said that this writer thought was pretty catchy. And it, to a certain extent, probably is. Biden said, "You want to know what the first and most important plank of my climate proposal is? Beat Trump." I mean, so that's what it's all about, beating Trump. Now, at first you may say, well, that just doesn't sound like much. But in reality, that is, when you have an incumbent president, I can't knock the Democrats for this, for wanting, in a sense, to beat Trump. The people running. Now, Democratic voters who vote for these jackasses on jackasses, that's a whole other story. But if you're going to run for president, you need to prove that you can beat the person that is currently occupying that seat, correct? Any seat, it doesn't matter. It could be a seat on a school board, which I wish more of you would run for, by the way. I'll keep beating that drum. But, so I give Biden a little bit of credit talking about actually beating Trump for that. I wish Romney and McCain had been more upfront about trying to beat Barack Obama. Maybe we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. I mean, those two guys didn't challenge Obama. Together, they didn't challenge Obama, let alone as independent candidates for president. So I'm not gonna give Biden a hard time for basically saying he's the guy that can beat Trump. Because if you don't believe that, he shouldn't be running. But what this writer goes on to say, with that as his refrain, Biden is putting himself squarely where Democratic voters are. I'm not so sure that's true. There's polls, of course, we know about the polls. Polls show that most Democrats yearn for a candidate, any candidate, and that's what they got, anybody out there, who can credibly promise to unseat the president. Virtues like has new ideas and represents a new generation rank much lower. It's all about beating Trump. They want what it sounds to me like, you know what it sounds to me like? It sounds to me like that, according to this poll, they're looking for the male version of Hillary Clinton. How did that work last time? That's what Biden, slip of the tongue there. But that's what Biden is really kind of trying to be, right? He's trying to be like a male version of Hillary Clinton. The second part to Biden's message, he promises to undo the angry polarization of the Trump era. The Trump era is all about anger. Yeah, anger to the left because they're losing. A lot of joy in the heart of Mudville, right? The heart of MAGA hat wearing sons of guns. They're pretty happy. But I guess the hardcore left, they're melting. No wonder they believe in global warming. They're all melting under Trump. But it says here that he doesn't specify how he's going to stop this polarization. But let me read this one more time because I think I need to make a stronger point. There's a second part to Biden's message. He promises to undo the angry polarization of the Trump era and restore civility and bipartisanship to American politics. You know what? Let me translate that for you. What he's really saying is let's make that swamp even bigger. Let's refill whatever President Trump has drained. Let's involve all the woodland critters like the ones on South Park. Do check out Woodland's Family Christmas and you'll know what I mean. I'm a big fan of South Park, but we'll just leave it at that. But Biden wants to go back to nostalgia. He wants to bring America back to the pre-Trump era where everyone was happy and the Republicans stayed in their place. Biden went on to say, I know some of the really smart folks say Democrats don't want to hear about unity. They say Democrats are so angry that the angrier a candidate can be, the better chance he or she has to win the Democratic nomination. Well, he goes on to say, well, I don't believe that. Sure you do, Joe. You're really not giving yourself full credit. You are one nasty piece of work, sir. I mean, think about it. But I'll just give you one example. Do you remember back during the Hillary campaign when he was out on the stump for her? And Biden actually said to a black civil rights group, I don't remember exactly which one, I think maybe they were in Virginia, but he said, and if you vote for Trump, vote for Republicans, they want to put y'all back in chains. I mean, that doesn't get much nastier than saying that people want to put American citizens back into slavery. You talk about nastiness and fear-mongering, it doesn't get much more vile than that to me. And he said, y'all, like he speaks like that all the time, pandering, man. It's amazing how many Democrats all of a sudden become Southern good buddies. You know, they, y'all do this, and Lord, I declare, and I ain't no ways tired. I mean, they will pander to the best of them. If the American people want a president, this is what Biden said, if the American people want a president to add to our division, lead with a clenched fist and spew hatred, they don't need me, they got President Trump. Now, I hate to tell you this, Joe, but the American people have said several times that they don't need you. Two to be exact, right? The Democrats have rejected you twice. I only hope they reject you a third time with the wisdom. We'll see. But it's not like Biden's not a winner. Yeah, he won. He's been in politics his whole life. But when it comes to the presidency, he has not gotten past first base, really, although he wants to grope his way there. A Harvard-Harris poll released in March asked Democrats to describe their politics. The most popular label was Obama Democrat, well ahead of progressives. Man, think about that. Obama still has people fooled, man. To really think, and I hear people, I got friends that are on the hardcore left. I live in the middle of a sea of blue here, man. I've been on the blue wave my whole life. Look up Alachua County on one of those red-blue county maps in the state of Florida, and you'll see, man, I am in a lake of blue surrounded by red up here. But they still think Obama, many of these progressives still think Obama wasn't far enough left. Think about that for a minute. How far left they want to go if Obama was considered a moderate or centrist. Let me tell you, Obama was not a moderate, not a centrist. He's a hardcore, true believer leftist. That is what he is. And it's just not my opinionated fact. It's a fact. Go back and read his own words about the people who inspired him, and they were hardcore leftists like Saul Alinsky. In an odd way, back to the article, Billy Bob tells me to get back to the article. If you haven't met my psychic sidekick here, this is Billy Bob Bass. He keeps me straight. I whisper to the fishes, so you're listening to one crazy dude here, right? This hat, by the way, says make fishing great again, because I'm an avid fisherman. That's why I'm so red. I spent a lot of time on the Gulf of Mexico. But I'm not as red as the stripes behind me or the hat, right? So maybe I'm still a pale face. I'm Captain Whitebread, the savior to the rescue here. But Billy Bob has a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks if you want to contact us directly. But the article says here, in an odd way, Biden, like Trump, is offering voters the politics of nostalgia, only as a mirror image. Biden says he too wants to return the country to a golden age in his telling of the days of what he calls the Obama-Biden administration. The Obama-Biden administration, the good old days. His message boils down to make America normal again. Normal. Like, are you talking about, like, let's just break down. So, like, for African Americans, since you're talking about the Obama-Biden administration, how was it for African Americans then compared to now. I think then many of them were unemployed. Now unemployment is at an all-time low. How about black home ownership under the Trump administration? At an all-time high. Black business ownership up over 400%. Many of the same statistics for Hispanics. Women have gotten over 58% of the new jobs created, which are setting records, by the way. That's why if you go back and look at Trump's last State of the Union address, the Democratic women in white were all dancing, woo, when he said that they got 58% of the new jobs. You know, so how you like him now? So what nostalgia are we returning to? Unemployment? People living on the streets? I mean, is that what it is? I got a couple stories later in the show that will show you just how much progress the progressives are for. So I don't know about this. Do we want to go back to normal? I don't want to go back to the way it was then. How about you? Some Democrats disagree, of course, in that their view of Biden's notion of bipartisanship is an anarchist fantasy. Well, they always believe in fantasy, so I don't know why they got a problem with this. They believe in the fantasy of the Russia project, right? They believe that Trump spent his whole life becoming a multi-billionaire so that he could one day run for president and betray us to Russia. That's the fantasy they want you to believe. It has been nonsense. I can't say it any better than the president. Ridiculous bullshit from the very beginning. Republicans blocked most of Obama's initiatives in 2010, according to this article, including his attempt to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. That old Biden rule. It's funny how they never mentioned the fact that it was Biden that gave them the cover to do that. What Mitch McConnell, old turtlehead from Kentucky, did. It was Biden that set that policy up, set that precedent up in the Senate. So if you don't like the fact that Merrick Garland is not on the Supreme Court, then blame Joe Biden. But it talks about Bernie Sanders here. Sanders says merely replacing Trump isn't enough. So what we need is a communista like you, I guess. And that the country needs more fundamental change. They always talk about fundamental change. Let me just tell you, when they say they want to fundamentally change America, what they mean is do away with the Constitution or ignore it, which I think is probably even worse. The core question of the Biden-Sanders debate is clear. Restoration or revolution? So restoration with Biden, I guess, and revolution with Bernie. You know, to me, there's another way of looking at this. I think instead of restoration and revolution, the really question is, do we sink slow with Joe Biden? Do we sink slow with Joe? Or do we go fast with Bernie? Because we're going to sink into socialism, into becoming an S-hole country like they criticized Trump for talking about. And I got some evidence of that to show you just how far we've sunk under progressive administrations in just a moment. But the real question is, are we going to sink slow with Joe or fast when feeling the burn? Because sinking is what direction we're heading. Biden's support is strong across most demographic groups. He has more backing from women than all the female candidates combined, for example. Do they just want to snuggle up to old Joe? Is that what they just want to give a little hug and a little kiss behind the ear? Is that what they were? I mean, think about that. Women are more behind. If true, then maybe they just want to say, hey, Joe, how about giving me too some love? I don't know, man. But this next article comes to you from CNN. I listen to programs and read papers and stuff, so you don't have to. It's part of my public service. But this article is all about TDS. Yes, people are suffering from TDS. Trump derangement syndrome. It's running rampant across America, and especially when in the city or the state of New York. Wait till you check this out, man. This is comical, but at the same time, it's a bit scary. From CNN, New York legislature passes bill allowing state to prosecute people pardoned by the president. So in other words, if the president, in this case Trump, which this is all about Trump, pardons someone, the state reserves the right to prosecute you anyway. So you get pardoned by the highest elected official in the land, but you ain't free because New York might be coming after you. New York is one signature away, talking about Governor Cuomo, from allowing prosecutors to pursue state charges against presidential associates who have received federal pardons. Now let's just think about that for a minute. I know that this is all about Trump derangement syndrome and all, but think about what this is saying. This is saying that if you go whatever before the highest elected official, the only official, by the way, that is elected by the entire nation. Now, you may not like the system, but that's the system that we have. Donald Trump was the duly elected president of the United States of America. Get over it. We haven't had an unduly elected president, by the way. They've all won within the framework of the constitutional system. Democrats and Republicans have won. You know, Donald Trump just did what many other people have done, what Hillary didn't do and will never do, but that's another story. But think about that. So the state now is turning around, in this case, the state of New York, I'm sure others will try to follow, and saying that you could get a pardon from the highest official this government has, but it would be meaningless to them. That is scary, man. I wonder what else that would apply to. Can you imagine that? If there's something happened at the federal level and states just said, we're just going to ignore that. There's a lot of heinous stuff that could happen. The Democratic-controlled state assembly on Tuesday passed the bill 90-52. I'm sure it's pretty much on party lines, allowing the state-level prosecution of people pardoned of federal crimes, provided that they worked for or were related to the president at the time of the pardon. So this is specific in this case to one president. I guess it will have carryover. I mean, do they assume that President Trump is the last president that's ever going to be, and that if there's another president that they won't pardon anybody? I mean, this is just crazy, man. It is true Trump derangement syndrome. They care more about getting rid of and punishing people who support President Trump than they do about what is in actually the best interest of the United States of America. And that is sad commentary, but it is just a fact. The bill, which passed the state Senate earlier this month, now heads to the desk of Governor Andrew Cuomo, a Democrat, who is expected to sign the bill into law. No doubt he will. He'll probably have one of them sign it, sir, but they'll be laughing. I wonder if they'll laugh and carry on as much as they did when they signed the death to the baby bill. Cuomo has previously criticized Trump's statements on his pardon power, saying in a statement last August, President Trump has shown he is willing, if not eager, to abuse his executive authority, including pardon power, to protect himself. That really sounds strong, doesn't it? But the reality is, who in the hell is Trump pardoned? I went and looked at it. There's a handful of people that Trump pardoned, but none of them were affiliated with him directly. Really, none of them were. He pardoned people like I think his most recent one was an Iraqi war vet who got caught up because he actually interrogated a prisoner that he felt knew who was killing people in his unit, and the person died during that interrogation or tried to escape or something. Anyway, he died. You know, tragic, right? But things happen in war. President Trump pardoned him. President Trump pardoned that woman that was convicted of some type of cocaine deal and was sentenced to like life in prison, I think, or pretty much so. He pardoned her when Kim Kardashian actually asked him to and all that. So who is President Trump pardoned? He hasn't pardoned anyone that is connected with the Russia probe. And he said that he may or may not. He's kind of dodged it to a certain extent, or basically just said, we'll play it out. He's done nothing wrong. Yet they want to, kind of like the investigation, they want to investigate a crime that never happened. They want to condemn President Trump for pardons that haven't happened. I mean, it's like I said, the progressives live in a fantasy world, a nightmare one, but still a fantasy. The bill allows for the prosecution. Check this out. This is a long paragraph, but I got to read it to you because it's just crazy. It literally reeks of Trump derangement syndrome. So bear with me. The bill allows for the prosecution at the state level of any individual who was employed by or served in the executive branch, served in a position subject to Senate confirmation, the cabinet and some of those below, or worked for a presidential campaign or a transition team, regardless of whether they had been pardoned or granted clemency by the president under which they served. It would similarly allow prosecution of presidential relatives, like his children, regardless of pardon. So in other words, why don't you just call it the TDS bill, the Trump derangement syndrome bill? Think about that. Let me tell you, and you need to lean in and listen. You don't get anything outside the show. Get this, and you snowflakes as well that are listening. I know you are. And if you're melting, you deserve to be melted by me. This is meant to not only destroy President Trump, but it is sending a message to anyone who support. Think about this, literally from campaign volunteering all the way up to serving in his cabinet. You are being watched, and you are on our S list, our hit list, and it doesn't matter if you were to do anything or not, we're coming after you. It is meant to not only destroy President Trump, but anybody who actually supports him, serves him in any way, now or in the future. It's a message. And guess what else it's a message to? And this is what's even scarier. It's a message to anyone out there who might consider, after President Trump leaves office, hopefully in 6 years from now, that you better not raise your head and run. You better be part of the rat establishment if you want to run, because if you're an outsider, we are going to not only kill you, but anyone who raises their hand or head to. But New York State Assembly Minority Leader Brian Kolob, a Republican, criticized the bill. Kolb said, I hope I said that name right, the job of the state legislature is to develop measures that help New Yorkers. Imagine that, trying to actually help your people. This bill does absolutely nothing to achieve that. The endless political grandstand at the state level is a total waste of time, energy, and taxpayer money. Man, I get hot under the collar watching that. Sorry about that. I got to get the air conditioner. I guess I need a big blow fan. I just get so excited about this stuff and so burning. I'm feeling the burn, but it ain't for Bernie Sanders. But what this Mr. Kolb said, man, it goes, the same thing is true on the national level. You could repeat that statement at the national level. It's a waste of time, energy, and taxpayer money. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the monsters under the bed are real, and TDS is real. Trump derangement syndrome is real. The progressive left, are willing to throw the entire U.S. Constitution, the flag behind me here, out the window, flush it down the toilet, out to sea, anything to get rid of Donald Trump. That's the sickness they suffer from. They suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. Well, maybe, you know what causes it? Maybe they got bit by a flea from LA. You don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe they got sick from fleas in LA. Because here's the next story that shows you just how much progress we're making under progressives. Rotting trash piles. This comes high in LA, attracting rats and raising concerns of new epidemic. Rat-infested piles of rotting garbage left uncollected by the city of Los Angeles, even after promises to clean it up, are fueling concerns about a new epidemic after last year's record number of flea-borne typhus. Now, I'm not right now able to show you pictures. That's coming soon. We're going to get back to more studio quality in the not too distant future. I hope you're enjoying what we're doing now. I'm just trying to keep this voice alive, keep this message out there. But I do have pictures. I do have a link on my John Martin Talks Facebook site. If you haven't gone directly there and liked it, please do go to John Martin Talks Facebook, like it, and share it with others. I have an article there I posted last night. This article I'm going over, and you can click on it and see just how high the piles of trash are. And they are way above what you're seeing. They're above ceiling high. And oh, by the way, let me give you a couple of milestones we just reached on John Martin Talks. Our Facebook page just went over 11,000 followers. Thank you so much. And we had this week 1.1 million post reach according to Facebook. In other words, over 1 million people had some interaction with my Facebook page. And that doesn't even include the great people out there watching, like on Citizens for Trump, Deplorable Resistance, and several other Facebook pages we're broadcasting. That's just from my page alone. So if you want to see the memes that we put out, the articles I comment on, the only way you're going to see that is to go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, and share it with others. But it says, so let us ask you here, rotting trash piled high with fleas carrying typhus Is America becoming the S-hole that Donald Trump warned us about in other countries? I mean, I think we are, right? It certainly appears to. Wait till you hear the rest of the details of this story. Even the city's most notorious trash pile. So there are multiple trash piles, and some of them have gotten names, and some of them are worse than others. Oh yeah, I know about that trash pile. But even the city's most notorious trash pile, located between downtown LA's busiest fashion and produce district, continues to be a magnet for rats after it was cleaned up months ago. So this trash pile was so big, this one that they cleaned up, that the rats are now attracted to it. I guess like sharks swimming to where they know the fishing's been good, even though the trash is gone. The rodents can carry typhus, infected fleas, which can spread the disease to humans through bacteria rubbed into the eyes or cuts or scrapes of the skin, resulting in severe flu-like symptoms. So the plague returns, because they talk about bubonic plague in here as well in just a moment. The plague returns. I guess that's what you get when you have progressives making progress. They're turning us back to the days of the plague, man. The NBC4 I-team, as they call it, and they reference that in this article a lot, first told Mayor Eric Garcetti, who was thinking about running for president, I don't think he is now, but you never know, office about the piles of filth on the 700 block of Caris Avenue in October. So this is another trash pile. It's been building since October of 2018. At that time, he promised to make sure trash didn't pile up like that. Well, promises made, promises not kept, unkept, because the city is unkept. Quite a bit different than the president. So this pile's been growing since 2018. And as I say, I posted pictures of it, or a link to them on my Facebook page. This lady, her name is Estela Lopez, who represents business owners in that area. This is what she said. She says, I can't walk down the street without thinking that a flea could jump on me. Now, and maybe this is unfair speculation or questioning, but I would like to ask Miss Estela Lopez, what party do you support? Who did you vote for? Did you vote for any of these guys on the council, let alone the mayor? Because if you voted for progressives, then you're getting what progressives always deliver. Progressives, one thing you know for sure progressives won't deliver is progress. They do just the opposite. They want to return us to the Stone Age with the Green New Deal. De Blasio wants to basically return Manhattan Island to the state that they could trade it back to the Indians for some beads. Might be a good idea, I don't know. And now we got mountains of trash, basically with rats coming in the bubonic plague. I mean, lead in the water of Flint, Michigan, also run by progressive Democrats. One thing, as I say, you know for sure, progressives won't bring you, that is progress, because they don't know how to spell it, let alone deliver it. After reporting a pile of waste to the city's 31111 service, this Channel 4 news team was told it could take up to 90 days before it was cleaned up. 3 months. So a pile of trash literally in the center of your town, 3 months. We'll clean it up. It'll take us 3 months, but we'll clean it up. Good Lord, man. Brought to you by the Democratic Party, the progressives. Could this be coming to your neighborhood if you keep electing progressives? Could it be coming to the neighborhood of the United States of America? Absolutely, if any of that 2020 yahoos actually win. Progressives don't bring progress. Infectious disease specialist, I love this. They got a specialist on the scene here. Dr. Jeffrey Klausner of UCLA said there's no time to waste. He says trash, now here, this guy got a doctorate degree to tell you this. Trash and food waste attracts rats. It does pose a public health risk. I'm telling you, you could have asked this old country boy. I can tell you right now, I didn't go to UCLA, and I did go to University of Florida, but by the time I was in like maybe grammar school, I could tell you that rotten food attracts rats. I mean, I don't need a doctorate degree for that, man. Wow. Is this what you... I mean, I give you a quick joke, man. If you want to get, you ever go to a proctologist, you guys out there, you want to get a really good joke on a proctologist when he's like probing your prostate and you're bent over, turn around and go, did you go to college for this? Anyway, you might as well get something out of the show, some of you liberals out there. Out of control rat population can even lead to the spread of dangerous strains of salmonella, bubonic plague, he noted. Wow, bubonic plague. That made me think of this. I got to calm down a minute here. because I want to give you a new nickname I got for the Democrats. Dark Age Dems. They are the Dark Age Dems. That 2020 field is the Dark Age Dems. It's Biden that wants to put you back in chains, not Trump. It's Biden and Bernie and Kamala Harris that want to see you go back to being unemployed and homeless. I mean, they let trash piles up, man. It's them that want to see Iran armed with nuclear weapons, man. The Dark Age Dems are your friend. Other large U.S. cities like New York and Washington, D.C. have teams devoted to aggressive rat control. In the nation's capital, they're experimenting with bait stations laced with rat contraceptives. So they're trying to put birth control on the rats. Why not demand abortion for the rats? Why not just say every rat deserves abortion? You know, I was thinking about this. This is a side note, but I really want to get this off my chest. Because this whole abortion, there was a big demonstration at the Supreme Court yesterday, led by Mazie Hirono and all of that. And there was a demonstration I saw going into Gainesville. And I live on the east side of the county, so I have to go into East Gainesville. And I love it over here. I love the east side. But the east side of Gainesville has traditionally been the minority, the African-American part of town. You know, southern towns used to be divided, and that was traditional part. So in this, the biggest intersection there is on that town, you had all these people yesterday during rush hour traffic protesting for abortion. You know, they were anti-pro-life and Alabama bill and all that stuff. And I happened to notice there was quite a few of them out there on all four corners. They basically were old white people. They were old white. You didn't see a lot of black people out there. And I got to thinking about it. Who has killed more African Americans than old white people with abortion? I mean, the abortion clinics were purposely set up. Planned Parenthood was set up in the poorest neighborhoods to do what? A type of genocide, right? And I got to thinking about it because I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. The left has been pushing this issue of abortion to the most extreme. You know, and I know there's a lot of pro-life people that may not like what I'm about to say, but I think it needs to be said. You know, the vast majority of Americans, when it was basically during the first trimester, they might have been, many were very concerned. Don't misunderstand me. Many were concerned, and I don't criticize them. I think rightfully so. But in general, of the American population was either indifferent to it or basically said, hey, you know, okay, maybe so, woman's right to choose. But the left was not satisfied. Had they been satisfied, we probably wouldn't be having this fight we're right now. If it was just left to basically what the Roe versus Wade seemed to be, where abortions, like the Clintons said, were safe, legal, and rare, I don't think there'd be that big a push. I think people who were strong anti-abortionist, pro-life people would have been kept to the fringe. I'm not saying you are fringe. I'm just simply saying that you would have, in a sense, been regulated to that. But the left was not satisfied. They never are. They had to push it to the extreme, to the point that it went from safe, legal, and rare to you literally can abort a baby after it is born alive. I mean, how much further can they push this issue? And that is the issue, by the way. It is how far can they push it? Can they push it to the fact that the baby's a year old? I mean, where does it stop? Because to me, once a baby's alive, the debate about whether you can kill it or not is over. It's a living being. Forget science. I mean, science proves that life kind of begins at conception. It's certainly moving in that direction. But I don't see how anyone can argue that a baby, a U.S. baby, born alive has every constitutional right there is at that moment. Boom. I don't see how you can argue that. And the fact that the left has pushed it that far is why we're here. Okay? That's why we're at this point. And I was thinking about it. They always do that. And you may or may not like this example, but I'm going to give you one more example. Look at gay rights. I don't think too many people are like beating up on gay people. Or is there hatred out there? Yeah, sure there is. But the left wasn't satisfied with that. They had to push it to the point that gay people can get married. I'm not even making a big stink about that. But they pushed it to the extreme. And it made me think, well, what will be the next thing that gay rights people do? Because they already advocate for being able to have children, either surrogate or adoption, right? So how much longer before gay couples demand the right of abortion? They demand that we need to have abortion. So we can't have an abortion when we get pregnant, but we're going to get this woman pregnant so we can abort that baby so we feel normal. We have normal rights, Mr. Biden, as you say. So I know it sounds crazy, but that's just how crazy the left has gotten. So I ask, well, instead of rat contraception, why not just rat abortion? Back to this story. I'm sorry, Billy Bob. I'm sorry. I just get passionate about this issue because it's insane to think that you can kill a baby after it's born. It's nuts, okay? And it should be clear as a bell and absolutely illegal. But that's just the way I see it. But in Los Angeles, the I-Team, this Channel 4 news team, learned there is no plan or program to control the growing rat population that feast at trash piles like the one in Ceres Avenue. No plan. So here is Pepe Garcia, Los Angeles Bureau of Sanitation. He says it's something that we'll look into. Now, that's not a perfect government answer. We'll look into it. So it made me think, look into it, man. Does LA need a trash map? Like San Francisco developed a poop map? Warning, if you walk by here, you're liable to get typhus and the bubonic plague. Don't go down to that street. It's full of the plague. And then we're going to have like Monty Python scene. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. I mean, this stuff, it's funny, but it's scary and sad. And it's coming. It's not only coming to America, it's here. And they're just trying to expand on it. Rats carrying typhus-infected fleas were found around LA last fall, according to County Health Team Department records obtained by the news team. The agency did not provide details about where the fleas were found, saying that this is government at its best, saying that the information about where you might get sick, where you might catch typhus or the bubonic plague would cause confusion and unnecessary alarm. Confusion and unnecessary alarm. More about that in a minute. Between 2013 and 2017, county residents reported, and this is LA County, reported an average of nearly 60 cases. That's twice as many reported the previous 5 years. And last year, it more than doubled to 124 cases were reported in Los Angeles. So don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody about it because it'll lead to confusion and unnecessary harm. So if you're one of those 124 people that caught typhus last year, you know, don't raise a stink about it. You're going to add to the confusion and unnecessary alarm. Just because you might die, don't mean you get too excited. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This news just broke today. We, the U.S. government, closed a detention facility for illegal aliens in Texas today because of the outbreak of flu there, and a 16-year-old, I think Guatemalan, died of the flu, and about everybody at the place has the flu. So we're not satisfied with diseases festering in our inner cities, but we got to bring people infected into the country. We got to double down. That's what the Democratic Party is for. That's what the jackasses on jackasses are for. That's what the dark age Democrats are for. That's the progress that progressives want to bring to your hood, man, and my hood too. I'm not for it. I'm against it, as they say. But this next story also shows you how much progress the progressives are willing to do, how much they're willing to do for progress. You determine. I'll just report it. You determine whether this is progress or not. It's coming from Breitbart. Study: 75 American colleges offer black-only graduation ceremonies. According to a study by the National Association of Scholars, graduation ceremonies at African American universities at American universities, not African American, American, just basic American universities, are becoming increasingly segregated. So in other words, they're having separate ceremonies. Harvard made news. We'll talk about that in a minute. A couple of years ago doing this. They're holding separate services for African Americans. Segregation. The study revealed that as many as 75 total colleges, now these are not black colleges, historically black colleges. These are mainstream colleges. That as many as 75 colleges segregated graduation ceremonies, and that's not all. 43% of the colleges included in the study offer segregated residence halls. In other words, they are separating people by the color of their skin into different little communities inside on the campus. Crazy. Progressives making progress. How is that? I mean, think about that. It wasn't that long ago that the president had to send troops down, the National Guard, to Alabama to yet let black students attend the University of Alabama. Go back and look at the footage of that. And now you're telling me the brave young woman, it was kind of featured on Forrest Gump, mocked a little bit, but I don't mean that. But the footage, that's probably where most people saw it. But to think that that young woman braved all of that stuff to get into school only to 50, 60 years later, however long it's been, that we now want to resegregate the schools. All the trouble they've had, like in Boston with busing and everything else, that the progress that was made there, now we want to resegregate schools. I cannot possibly believe that that had anything to do with Martin Luther King's vision, I can tell you that. What we found, back on the study here, what we found was that neo-segregation is widespread, if not pervasive. About 46%, 80 colleges out of the 173 surveyed, segregate student orientation programs. So literally, your first act as coming to the school is to be segregated according to skin color. And that's progress? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it says here, offer residential arrangements, segregated residential arrangements. 75% of the colleges do that. And 72%, 125 colleges out of total, segregate graduation ceremonies. Now, I told you that Harvard did this, I think back in 2017 started it. I'm not sure if they were the first, but they were the most noteworthy one. But they put a statement out at the time that it's unbelievable. And we'll probably close the show on this statement here and my comments, of course. Harvard's statement on having segregated graduation ceremony. We really wanted an opportunity to give voice to the voiceless at Harvard. So many students identify with the African diaspora, I guess is how you say it, but don't necessarily feel welcome. It's talking about the culture. But don't necessarily feel welcome as part of the larger community, and they don't feel like their stories are being shared. So you got a group of people that their voice is not getting out there, and their stories aren't being shared. So the solution to that is to separate them where only people of that same race, in this case, hear their stories. So instead of putting their stories out there at large, the success stories for people to hear, you want to make sure that the smallest audience possible, that you're speaking to the crowd, instead of the big crowd, you're speaking to the chorus, you're preaching to the chorus, in other words. That is the liberal logic. I mean, it's just crazy. Am I the only one that just sees how absolutely asinine that is? That you're going to segregate people? All the things that people like Martin Luther King went through, all of that. And I'm telling you, racism was and is real. But we've eliminated institutional racism for the most part. But they're trying to bring it back. You can't legislate what's in a person's heart. But I think I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll close the show on this. A couple days ago, I went to my granddaughter. She goes to a private Christian school. I went to her 5th grade band concert, and she's black. She's not, to me, she's my granddaughter, whether you like it or not. She is. And I am so proud of Victoria. She's doing great work. But you look at that stage, and maybe I'll post a picture of it. It was one of the most diverse group of people you will ever see. And they had a couple things in common. They all seemed really happy, and they were excelling. They were being everything we claim we want our educational system to be. That stage was literally Martin Luther King's dream. To me it was. I get emotional think about it, And now we're saying that progress is to return back to segregation. Because keep in mind, and there is a reason for this, and I'll close the show on this. The Democrats' only strategy that they can win on is not on their ideas. They can't run it from their ideas, but they have to divide America. And the more they can divide it into little segments based on things like race and ethnicity, and then get you all pissed off, and then unify you back with a common boogeyman, in this case Donald Trump or the Republican Party, that's the only way they can win, is by pissing everybody off and segregate. Progressives cannot win under progress. They cannot. They must regress in order to progress politically. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like it, share it far and wide. Thank you for listening on places like Citizens for Trump, Deplorable Resistance, Media Measures, and all of that. Thank you so much. And above all else, ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed day.